Hello, Serious Survivor here. And today I wanted to talk about the coming economic collapse. I don't think this is any surprise to anyone. I believe we all see it coming. With the coronavirus cases increasing the way that they are in the United States and throughout the world, we're starting to see a second wave of lockdowns that are occurring. And these lockdowns are already in effect at a lot of places in the U.S. They were just recently put back into effect, affecting millions, tens of millions, hundreds of millions of people, and even billions worldwide. I realize the nation is torn on what to think about the coronavirus, so we'll put all of the thoughts about that virus to the side, and we're not going to talk about the death toll or anything like that. We're just going to look at the economic impact that we're going to feel from this virus and the lockdowns that are now being put into place. We are already at a very high rate of unemployment, and the nation's not going to be able to stand much more of this, not without a total collapse. It's not looking good for this nation, and no matter which way it goes. And it's going to be a difficult situation for those who have not prepared. And this video really is going to be a short video just talking about the impacts that we're going to feel here very shortly, and some of the things that I believe are a little overreach, and some of the things that are impacting us on a psychological level that we really probably don't take into account for. With the new lockdowns in place in places like New Jersey and other states, I know Michigan, where I'm at, they're locking down again. Not as severe as it was the first time, but with the cases spiking the way they are, I do expect this to greatly increase, the amount of the lockdown to greatly increase over the next few days, a few weeks probably. And by the beginning of the year, and maybe into February, it would not surprise me one bit to see a total nationwide lockdown and a total nationwide mask mandate. With this type of lockdown, it's the smaller businesses that are affected the most. A lot of economists will say that, when businesses close down, that opens the door for another business to open up. And, that may be true to a degree, but that's not entirely true. I mean, the numbers are being fudged there. So when a business closes down, then that family is without income and in a dire situation at that point. So if another business does open up, how does it help those people who've already lost their business? And this is not going to be an even ratio. If one business closes, then 3 months is not going to be another business to take its place for everyone that closes, especially if we're in an economic downturn. As businesses close with lockdowns in place, no one can open up. So this thought process of when a business closes and when another opens, in its place is just not entirely accurate at this point, not in this type of situation that we face this year and going into next year. But I don't think a lot of people realize how serious an economic collapse could be. I've got an in-depth video coming out this weekend. It should be out Saturday, comparing the recessions in our past and the Great Depression to what we're in now, what we're facing now, and what we're looking at. And I've done a lot of research on that video, but I wanted to touch on some of the things that we're going to talk about here. And that's the fact that with an economic collapse, a lot of people don't realize that for some people, this will almost be like a grid down scenario. For those that do lose their jobs, for those that are impacted by it, then cell phone services, internet services, things like that, they're not going to be able to afford. So it's going to put a large portion of the people back and start doing things the old-fashioned way. Because if you have to choose between your cell phone service or your internet service and feeding your family, then that's probably a pretty easy choice. But that does also isolate you from the rest of the world, basically. Sure, we get our local news and we can talk to people, but we can't talk to people if we're quarantined. We can't talk to people and go talk to our neighbor and find out what's going on in the world because our internet is down, because we're required to stay social distance, we're required to wear masks, and we cannot have large gatherings in some of the cities. But some of them have actually prevented or passed a mandate, or I hate to call it a law, but passed a mandate stating that no outside members of the family could gather at that house. So it's basically just whoever happens to live there can be there. That's pretty much telling you you can't have visitors, you can't have guests. And it's not just telling you that you can't have guests, it's telling you that you can't visit or be a guest in someone else's home. So for those that are without the services we talked about, how are they supposed to know what's going on in the world? How are they supposed to know how to get aid? You basically, with a lockdown, you can't go socialize with other people. Wearing the mask tends to dehumanize people that are around you. For, our entire life, we've learned to judge, people's reactions on their facial reactions, basically. We could tell by their smile, their frowns, things like that, what was going on, not necessarily what they were thinking, but a little bit about what they were feeling. Sure, some people fake it really well, but it would give us a good idea what type of mood the person was in that we're communicating with. Now that's been taken away from us. And not just that, but we have to stand 6 feet apart. Now, I'm all for safety, don't get me wrong, but the same thing is you have to look at what's being done with all of these mandates. It's taking the humanity out of humans. We're not able to actually communicate. We can't touch anyone. We can't shake hands. We can't do anything except for, with the members that happen to live in our own home. Now, some states are not locked down this severely, I realize it, but get ready because it's probably going to come very shortly. Hopefully the vaccines will work out and that will eliminate these cases. And if that does, great, then disregard everything I said. But if it doesn't, and that's what really gets me, is if this vaccine really is expected to work, then why are we seeing the lockdowns increase right now? Why are we seeing the mandates get more severe every day that goes by? So look at what this is doing to society. It's isolating us. It's making us stay in our homes. It's making us wear mask face coverings as we go out in public. It's making us stay a certain distance away from, everyone else. These mandates are telling us where we can and where we cannot go. It's telling us how many people can be there. It's telling us how to live our lives. And I realize for a lot of people, they're going to say, I'm going to get a lot of hate in the comments. I always do when I talk about this type of stuff. But the thing is, if you look at it, there's no way you can look at this and say it isn't being politicized by both sides. Okay, I'm not taking a side on that. By both sides are politicizing this. But the isolation, the fact that we are all basically being isolated, or the attempt is there to isolate us all. And what's going to happen next is, so far they've had a lot of mandates out, and a lot of people haven't followed it. And myself included, I'm guilty on some of that. But the thing is, when they see people not following it, this is going to usher in the ability for them to now get more strict on these guidelines, to start handing out a lot more fines, as they've been handing out fines across the U.S. already. But this gives them in their minds, the right to start incarcerating people, to start bringing criminal charges against people who simply walk outside of their house or walk down the street. But make sure to tune into the channel this weekend. The economic collapse video I got coming out, I put a lot of research in over the last week and a half since I put out my last video, but it's not quite ready yet. A lot of good advice will be in there. This advice comes from financial consultants. It comes from very reputable sources. It's not my opinion. It's not my advice. I'm just going to present some stuff, and hopefully it can help somebody out. But thanks a lot for watching. Tune in this weekend for that one. God bless, and for now, Serious Survivor, out.